All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the Calcioteers. Myself, Lazio Close, Francesco, and we have our newest member here, Elliot. Elliot is a Romanista, as you can see. Everyone's gonna be asking questions like, "Oh, how are you getting along with a Romanista?" It happens. It happens. He's also a author as well. Your book is
Yeah,
coming
one
out
book.
soon. Are you working
So I
on a
guess
book?
that can count.
One book. I'm sure it's going to be more than one book with your writing. He's a phenomenal podcaster, journalist as well. Craziest football junkie I know. Elliot, thank you for joining us, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Uh, so
Glad to be here.
we just want to before we continue, we want to wish our former member Joe best of luck. He had some things on his plate he had to take care of. So thank you, Joe, for your help and everything like that. We wish you all the best, man. Take care.
Yep.
Alrighty, so guys, uh, penalties on penalties this weekend. What's going on? I guess all these refs took all the lesson from Mike Dean over at the Prem, eh? It's just it's crazy, 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 crazy. All right, guys. So let's start off with Napoli Juve. Francisco, you were on the halftime show this past weekend, eh? How did
I
that
was.
feel?
Yeah.
It was interesting. I saw Camilla's tweet and I saw that I was mentioned by Joseph, and I like texted everyone I know, like guys, like listen, Joe already like set the groundwork. Just go tag me, because this is a moment that like
Yeah,
I want like to be on like TV. The halftime show is obviously like a goal for like 6 side and for me personally to be on. So then when I saw the DM from TLN, I was like, guys, listen, it's not official yet. There's a chance I'm on the halftime show. And then I obviously talked to Daniel and Camila before I got on. Like they just like told us like what was gonna happen and how everything was gonna work out. And then when I met Pietro, the Napoli fan I was debating, it was we talked for a bit just to like kind of just explain what was going to go on and how it would work. And then we kind of just recorded, and I felt like it was funny because like as I was recording, I'm like, okay, there's no way this segment's in a minute. Let's see how they edit it. And when they edit it, I saw like I went on their Instagram, and like everyone was like tagging me, saying like, oh, like they're going off on Pietro for the scarf. I'm like, there's no way. Like what? Like that. And I went on the Instagram comments and so like, oh, how could you have a scarf? How could you have? At the end of the day, I mean, I think people overreacted. It's just like classic banter. Is like
yeah. Oh, you were chirping pretty
the
good.
the
I
the
was
U
like, oh,
the Juve merit the scarf, but that was a big like talking point. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, it's just banter between Napoli and Juve, and
yeah,
but it was fun being on. It was like the experience was fun. Obviously, if it was in person, I think it would have been a lot more like heated
yeah,
rivalry, just like sitting across from them. Obviously, with the COVID on Zoom, but
yeah,
nonetheless, it was a fun experience, and
yeah,
unfortunately, this is a little exclusive. We had to, just like the Inter Lazio, there was like a score prediction we had to do at halftime. And I said,
yeah,
well, it's going to be 2-0 at half. They don't have Koulibaly. They don't stand a chance. And thank God
yeah.
for TLN. Thank you for the producers for cutting that part out. Kind of saved me some embarrassment. But,
Yeah,
but credit to Pietro, because he actually like no one like will know this except for like me, Camila, the producers, and Pietro. But he got the score like bang on. He said, "Oh, it's gonna be 0-0 for the longest time." And Insigne's like he didn't say Insigne, but he said it's gonna be 1-0. It's gonna be like a scrappy game, and he got like bang
yeah,
onto a tee. So like credit to him, I
yeah.
guess.
That's good. That's good. So we just got a message here from one of our fans here. Elliot, tell me a little bit about yourself. You're asking, didn't see the first episode because you were in the first episode, right? Tell me a
Yep.
little bit more about yourself. You know, you're a Mista journalist. Like, tell me more. Like, what other projects are you working on and stuff like that? Can you just tell us the audience that don't know you?
All right. I've been a Roba fan since the late '90s. My first campaign, I think, was either '99 because the first football match I ever watched was Zidane against Brazil in the World Cup, and then that's when I kind of became a fan. Long story short, my dad brought me a cup from Italy with Roma's logo on it. I didn't know any teams at that point, so it was just the decision was kind of made for me. And then unfortunately, I had to see your boys win the title. But it was different then because I didn't understand the hatred between the two teams as of yet. And then we win the next one against Juventus by 1 point. I remember the day that we won the title. I was switching back and forth between the two games because I think there was 1 point separating going into that game. So as long as we won, and that was a Parma team that we that we beat with Buffon and a lot of other good players. And then I basically, after we won, I pranced around. I took my shirt off and started running around my neighborhood. And then basically since then, as time progressed, I became more and more into it. I learned more about Roma and all that stuff. And then I didn't really start doing what I'm doing now until 2015. My stepdad passed away prior to that, and I was doing something else at the time, and I didn't want to do it anymore. So I wanted to try to figure something out. So basically, taught myself how to write. I don't have any like experience or whatever in terms of schooling. I just basically just started doing it, and then I was awful. I was like genuinely terrible for the first, I think, 50 articles, something like that, and then. Basically, ever since then, I've been doing it. I've done, I think, 1,054 articles now since that time. Prior to that, I did a preview of the World Cup, or not the World Cup, the Euros, where I picked France and Portugal to meet in the final with Ronaldo scoring 1-0. So I got the score right. I got the time right. I just didn't get the score right. So I started doing that. I was writing kind of like periodically, but not like consistently. But after that tournament, I decided I was going to do this Roma blog series, and I started with just post game reviews, and then it became post game reviews and previews. Then it became those things, and then obviously. Talking points, then it became Players of the Week, then it became Champions League Players of the Week, then it became Players of the Week. I continually added. So I've been doing that for a while, and then when COVID started happening, I started doing the podcast thing, and now I have so many podcasts I don't even know what to do with myself.
You have it's true. You have it.
More.
Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. So I mean, so I'm a football realist. In that sense, When the match kicks off, I cheer for Roma and stuff, and I want Inter to lose and Lazio to lose and Juventus to lose sometimes. But I just keep it real. Whatever, when I say something that sounds crazy, I legitimately mean it. I get into it with people on certain topics or subjects or how I view one player versus the other. I'm not into statistics and goals and assists. That's not what's important to me. Obviously, I take that into account when I evaluate, but I just look at what I see and I evaluate it that way. And so I'm just as off the cuff and as legit. Like when I say something, it's like I mean it and I can defend it, even when it sounds crazy. Obviously, the Ronaldo fanboys like to get on me because of some of the stuff I say. But so I just love football. I watch like 8 matches every weekend minimum. Serie A obviously is my first love, but I also enjoy the Bundesliga and La Liga and the Premier League when the big teams are playing, but only the big teams are playing. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm Romanian, if that helps. So whenever a Italian team is signing one of my guys, since we don't really make tournaments, I don't have the Italian national team right like that to bank myself off and support. So I support individual Romanian players, and I just kind of, I don't know. That's pretty much it.
Okay, in this podcast, you're Italian. Okay, we'll give you the key.
Yeah,
our blessing. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not Italian. I only support Italy occasionally, so I'm not like because Roma play in Italy. I want Italy to win everything. It depends on the situation and things like that. But Anyways.
Okay. Perfect. Well, everyone, Elliot, everyone. So there you go. We got a beautiful introduction there. And our profile is updated. So if you want to give him a follow, it's 24/7.
24/7
right there.
I used to have 4,000 followers. My account got deleted. So please come in and join the army.
Please do, guys. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk about the Napoli and Juventus game. Again, Francisco, the halftime game, he had a great time. I had a great time watching the halftime game, fellow Musketeer here, but to see that score line. Yes, it was a scrappy game, but man, oh man, it felt so good to see Juve lose again. I can't say too much because my team lost. The only thing I can take away from this is that I really thought that obviously Juve were gonna win this. Napoli with the crummy form that they're going on. Again, the only thing positive is Gattuso's kind of nominal stash that he had coming in on the sidelines. That was great. And Insigne's goal. I just felt Juventus, Francesco, agree with me here. I felt like they got too sloppy in the sense that, like, you see Ronaldo, and he's trying to do the tap, and he's like waving everything around. He looked like one of those inflatable tube men. Don't get me wrong, the game would have been like 3-1, 4-1, like a lot of chances, and Chiesa playing on top form. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think it could have went the other way? Do you think that Napoli deserved the win? Like, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I definitely think this is where all Napoli fans are going to hate me for this. I don't think Napoli deserved it. The reason I say it is because it started off when I saw the lineup. I was a little concerned from the start seeing Bernardeschi play. But I think with Koulibaly out, with so many key players, I don't know, spin out last minute. Obviously, Meret had to like come and step in last second. I definitely thought we were gonna win. I was very confident we were gonna win. It came down to that stupid Chiellini penalty that could have went either way for me. Like when you look back at it, you see his arms extended over his shoulder, and then like in hindsight, that's a penalty. But then you have to look at the fact that Chiellini had no idea that Romano was playing him. So I mean, like I guess the ref couldn't take that into effect, and they gave the penalty. And credit to Insigne for scoring the penalty, because obviously last time he had a penalty against Juve in a big moment, he missed, and that cost Napoli the Supercoppa. But he scored there, and I think that's a huge like weight lifted off his shoulder. But after that penalty, Gattuso and Napoli were just like, okay, listen, we got the goal. We know that Juve have the quality players. Let's just sit back, have 11 men behind the ball, and just like let Juve attack us for the entire game. And that's what happened. And when you have Bernardeschi playing for 70 minutes and he's not producing anything, it's basically playing 10 men. And then when Bernardeschi finally came on and McKennie came on, like we saw a little glimpse of hope, but we just couldn't break down Napoli's offense. There were just too many like blue shirts in the box, so we couldn't get there. And not to mention Meret, every time he plays Juve, he's like Buffon in his prime.
Oh,
the guy was
man of the
making
match,
saves in
for
between
sure.
his. The guy was making saves in between his legs. I've never seen it before. Because I guarantee you, the next team that because Ospina's out for 2 weeks, I believe. So the next team Napoli play, I'm guarantee you Meret's gonna have a disaster class.
He looks like Paul Lopez every time he doesn't play Juventus.
Yeah, he has a master class against us all the time. So it was just unlucky. And you would think like, oh, if Ospina was in the situations Meret was, I want to say 100% those goals would be going in. But Meret just hands down, he was man of the match easily, and we just couldn't break it down. And now we have to thank God for Spezia, but now we have to hope that a lot of big teams start dropping points if we want to win the Scudetto.
And it's funny, Ellie and I were talking before the show here today, and I don't know if you want to talk about your hot take, but it was really interesting about Juventus and Pirlo and stuff like that. But it's up to you if you want to share.
We'll save it. We'll save it.
But we'll save it.
What's
You
more
let me
relevant
know.
to
But
the whole thing?
yeah, and I mean, Ellie? Did you think it was a pen? I mean,
No,
to give defense to
definitely not a
Chiellini,
penalty.
like yeah.
So I think
highs in the back of his head, right? So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent you can say, okay, so Napoli didn't deserve to win because they got a bogus goal. But equally, Napoli, I thought they defended well. I thought Merit was excellent. And Juventus I think they just wasted too much. And obviously they had the chances, even if you look at the numbers. And I'm not obsessed with the numbers, but there were so many opportunities I felt that they could have scored goals, and Merit either, performed, or Juventus just couldn't, close the deal in those situations. And they were coming off that game against Roma. So and they weren't great in that game, but that's a big victory still because of that one Ronaldo moment, and then the whole game is what it is. So you would have thought coming off a big victory against a team that's in the top 4 or whatever, going into another game like this, you just expect Juventus to perform. And my thing is, Juventus can play ugly, but they always win the big games because they have that winning intangibles. That sort of thing that Milan, at least some Milan fans think that they have, where Juventus can go out, play poorly and lose, and then the next game be in top form. But it's especially in the big games where they always seem to perform. So I was actually surprised. I thought it was going to be close, but the matter of which they lost. So I won rather Napoli, I think. So I don't think it's weird. I don't think neither team deserved to win because Napoli's goal was bogus. but Juventus didn't justify themselves being the better team, or you get what I'm saying? So I think a draw would have been a more fair result there, but I think the penalty, I just don't think it's a penalty because, and if it is, it's incredibly soft. It's not like he was dragged to the ground or something. He basically just there was some contact, but not enough to provoke the type of action. I think Napoli needed that, especially with all the heat on Gattuso. But I expect Napoli to go back to what they were a few weeks ago when they're losing games to, teams like Genoa. I just don't think Napoli's that good of a team. On paper they are, but in actuality they don't play like they're a great team. They play like a decent team. That I think if they continue to go up and down like this, they'll fail to may even fail to make the Europa League. Just some of the other teams that are fighting for that. I think the top four we have right now is probably, I don't know the order, but that's I think what we're going to be looking at. And then I think Lazio probably are in Atalanta are the next two who I think can fight. And I think both of those teams are better than Napoli. And even though they won this game, it also highlighted some of the things that I think Napoli, yes, they defended really well, but they just accepted that one goal lead and they tried to defend it with dear life. So it's just like Juventus will bounce back because of the Juventus. But I don't know. It was just Napoli defended well and they got the result and good for them. But I just don't see this as being something that they're going to be able to continue to do. So I don't know. It kind of went all over the place there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. And I mean, at the end of the day, Kalini doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. I mean, you can argue all day you want. It was a crummy penalty for sure. Another upset in Serie A. Crazy. I call him Sprite. I don't know why. But Spezia beat Milan 2-0. And man, oh man. And this, to me, again, I've said this to many people before the transfer happened or they're talking about it, about Mario and Zlatan. They cannot play together. It's not about ego. It's not about this and that. They don't click well. Yeah, it's only one game they've actually been together, but I mean, I don't know. From the start, they looked a little shaky. They came in here too cocky, in my opinion. But one player that stuck out for me was Agadello from Spezia. That kid is a bulldog. You get the Roadrunner and just like American Bulldog, put them together, and boom, you got this kid plays with so much heart. And I predict he's going to go to a top 4 team next season. I think someone's going to pick him up and then just loan him up right away to either Spezia or somebody else. Spezia looks safe. I think they're not going to get relegated. But man, oh man, what do you guys think? I mean, what did you think of? Okay, not about like the score, but like Milan's form. Like, was there something off about Milan?
I think. It's just this thing because they've played well this season, but they have shrunk in some of these smaller type of games. They barely, I think they got a point against Genoa. They lost, and I think they drew with Verona as well. And they just don't have that sort of. They weren't expecting to be in a title race, so they don't have that winning mentality that Juventus has, where they can turn it. They can have those sort of moments. But the entire time I was watching it, I thought, why did they not go get Luka Jovic? I mean, that seems like that makes the most sense.
Insane.
Don't get me wrong. I'm happy that my boy Andre Silva in Frankfurt has more help up there because I'm really a big fan of those two together. But it's not like it was a complicated deal. You got Mandzukic for free. All you had to do was, I think it's just a dry loan, and they couldn't negotiate with Real Madrid. Those two clubs have negotiated before, and I just felt like the Mandzukic thing, it just didn't work. And Milan are a good team, but they don't have a great team on paper. And I think sometimes because of that, they get into these games where they're not playing well, and then they fall apart. And I thought this was the worst performance of the season. And Spezia got a couple points against a big team, and I think they just hit him in the mouth. And Milan just thought after the slow start they could skate through the rest of it and be able to nick a goal or a penalty, as people would say. And I just think they got too complacent, too lazy, didn't execute well enough, and they didn't make the right adjustments, and they kind of just fell apart. And I think that's the big issue. And I think I'm not saying it's done. I don't see AC Milan as a title contender anymore. I think I think they're going to slip out. I think Juventus will probably take their place in terms of who's actually chasing it. again, I do think that Inter will, in the end, get it. But I think because you have to think about this: Milan lost that game. Now they're coming off a horrible game. Now they have to play arguably their biggest game of the season against Inter, who's in amazing form. They lose that game. That's like a couple points there, and then they have one game in between that game and then Roma's at the end of the month. And I know we don't beat any top 6 team for whatever reason, but if Roma can find a way to turn it on against Milan, you could look at a Milan team that will lose to Spezia, Roma, and Inter, and by that point they could be even in danger of sort of falling out of the whole thing completely. And I think they'll still make the Champions League, but I think potentially they're going to throw the Europa League on purpose because they can't afford to keep their eye off the ball. So I think this was a disaster. But it's just when I watched it, I saw just there was bigger picture implications rather than just Milan were horrible and Speiza took advantage of that. But because I just think it totally changes the complexion of the way I view the entire title before that.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Dalot too. What sloppy! I know he slipped; it's not his fault, but even the fullbacks too. Like Hernandez got too cocky, going up and down. Like he's got to stop. I get it. He's a fullback that can score goals,
but he can't
look
defend.
At Dalot too. Like,
that's the problem.
That's the thing. Like I don't know. And then you look at the substitutes. It's like Liao gone, Chinonoglu gone, Salamaker's gone, Vanessa gone. Like everybody was gone, and it's like, holy smokes, right? And if you don't get it there, when you're ever gonna get it? So I felt like I know they didn't play great, but too many tactical changes. That was kind of the seed to their problem too. There's too many changes, in my opinion. You look over at Spezia, one change, and the guy scored the goal. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, again, this is a Milan that it was really unrecognizable. It's like, who is this? Like, this isn't the Milan that we know. You are right in the sense of the title is slipping off their fingers. I've always been afraid of that. I'd rather Milan win than Inter, but now it looks like it looks like Inter's going to run away with it. I know they're off by a bit, but if Milan don't wake up and smell the espresso, that's it.
They could even slip down to 4th if Roma can start big games.
Yeah.
And I think it's not impossible that they could fall out of it altogether because the second AC Milan, because they've been tested a couple times where they've played poorly, and then the next game they don't get the result that they're looking for, and they could just fall all the way out of it. And I hope they're back in the Champions League just because they're too big to be sitting in the Europa League every season. But just an example like that, you can't look at this and like, okay, they lost to Spezia, but then they had to play Inter, and then they have a game in between Udinese, who's, despite what happened this weekend, is playing well, and then they have Roma. They could lose all of these games.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's it could happen again. I mean, Francesco, do you think it's kind of a done deal with Milan losing the cup? I mean, Juve could slip up to the second place and this and that, but forget about that for 2 seconds. Just Milan in general. After, like I said, I was talking about all the changes that were made. Too many changes were made. You think that's it? This is the standing point for Milan. They've kind of lost the title.
Yeah, I like what Elliot said earlier. I think Milan have a great team, but everyone's forgetting they have a great team. But the amount of games that they're playing isn't normal for that team to play game in and game out. They're humans, they're not robots. So, like Juventus, they've done it so well for 9 years because they've always had a great team and players with winning mentalities. But they've also had a good enough bench to come on and replace certain players just to fill out some holes. Milan, I don't see Milan having that. Yes, they got Mandzukic, like, to replace that Ibra role, but at the end of the day, like, that's not enough. Like, they need a full team on the bench, and Milan don't have that just yet. The loss against Spezia, I expected Spezia to either get a tie or win against Milan, and Lazio to tie Inter. Obviously, the second one didn't happen, unfortunately. But a lot of people, especially Milan, underestimated the Spezia team, and I think Milan walked in with their heads held up way too high, just like Napoli. They haven't really been humbled yet. Obviously, they lost to Juventus, but they said, okay, that's Juventus. That's one loss, big deal. And they moved on. They didn't really get humbled. And I feel like this game against Spezia is really going to humble them. And the players in the dressing room who actually have trophies and winning mentalities, and Maldini in the dressing room is going to make sure that they bounce back against Inter. They bounce back against these bigger teams now and really start to focus on the Scudetto. I definitely think between the big three, Inter's definitely favored to win, but Milan has more potential to win the Scudetto. If they're like Napoli, they're gonna sink so bad. Once the Spezia is just like a rock to the ship. There's a hole in there. It's starting to sink slowly. But if they really humble themselves and they patch that hole, I think they could really upset some teams and win the Scudetto. It's all up to their mental strength and how they handle it though.
Yeah, interesting. And again, it's last thing that we want to see. I don't know, but you guys, but yeah, and last thing we want to see is just like Milan fall out of that Champions League spot because again, like Ellie, like you said, I mean, it's been so long since they haven't played Champions League,
Yeah.
and it'd be nice to see Zlatan and all these guys come together and try. Obviously, they're not going to win it, but just see how far this newly improved Milan can go. Right, a lot of changes have happened between the last time you were Champions League and now, right? So just to put that to the test and see how far it would go, it'd be pretty good.
Yeah. All I'm saying is it's not impossible that because based on the schedule, the way it looks right now, they have Inter, which I think Inter's is playing really well right now. It's hard to see them.
I don't know about that game.
And then they have Udinese. I know Roma just beat them easily, but
Udinese is a tough team.
Yeah, they're a tough team. And if DePaul isn't totally neutralized like he was this weekend, then it's a different result. And then I know we don't beat any great team. I mean, in the top six, for some reason we just collapse in those games. If we decide not to collapse I think it's the last game of the month, they could lose that game too. So literally, I don't think they'll lose all three, but I think they're dropping points to more than just Spezia. And I just think in the Udinese game we'll test them until the Roma game. And again, that one's at home, and Roma haven't lost a game at home. I think on points they have the most points in the league based on home form. Their away form's horrible, but in that game, I think Roma will feel like they can, even with all this stuff about they can't beat anybody outside or inside the top six.
Especially with El Shaarawy stepping up. Hopefully,
yeah, exactly.
We get to see him play.
Right now that they have more depth, and you're seeing different types of players operate. And Verona and Udinese were destroyed in a very quick amount of time. And Roma doesn't have the most talented team in the world either. And so I feel like it's just going to be tough, especially if Roma can turn it on. But I think Udinese has a good shot of wrecking some havoc. And when I look at the Inter game, I just think it just looks too tough for them to go from losing that and then going through. And they do have players with winning mentality, but at the same time, their coach has won nothing. Most of their starting 11 have won nothing, and to a certain extent, it's just I just have a hard time seeing it. I'm not saying they're dead yet, but that's why the next 3 games are incredibly important for their state of mind. And it's not impossible that they fall all the way out. I don't think so, but I just feel like Juventus especially after what happened, are more likely going to take their place in sort of the one to put pressure on Inter. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how they respond.
No, totally right. Now we've talked about Roma. I mean, smashing Udinese 3-0.
Yep.
The only thing I could honestly, I thought Udinese were really going to give Roma a tough time.
So did I.
I know Roma were going to win, but it was going to be scrappy regardless.
I think I picked Roma to win 2-1.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's what I would have picked too. The only thing that got me ticked off was Udinese, DePaul. Dude, we know we talked this before. We know you're gonna leave. We know you're the star player. We know you're the captain. Pass the ball. Like there's been times where, Okako's up front or De La Feo's on the other side. What does he do? He's trying to chip it, or he's trying to long ball it, or he's trying to rip it out of the park. It's like, dude, there's players. This game could have been an even more scrappy or high-scoring game if DePaul would have been, more of a team player. But again, at the end of the day, I got to give credit to Roma, Jordan with the pen and the goal. Like it was just great. And Elliot, it's funny, we were talking about who should get the armband, and you said he should get the vice. I totally forgot about Pellegrini. I think he should have the armband regardless of anything, vice or not. But it was a great game. What else did you guys think of the game? Like, what else would you want to kind of take away at it or pick at it?
Well, I think he touched on the whole DePaul thing. I remember, I think, a few years ago when Barella was still at Cagliari, Chiesa was still at Fiorentina, and DePaul was still there. It just seemed like DePaul was easily the third out of those three because they kind of are in the same age group. They kind of came in as the prospects together, and DePaul's selfishness and some of the other stuff he does, it just makes him look bad. I think Mancini just destroyed him. I mean,
destroyed, clobbered him.
The second he had an early moment where DePaul tried to like dribble past him, and he just took the ball like it was no big deal, and he was great in that game, and I think like he's like the as games go by he's been better and better and better, and we didn't have Smalling, for example, as well, so I thought he did really well. I thought Jordan played well. I think just collectively, Lopez, who I don't want anymore, made a really good save in that game. There's not too much to take away. It was just a good performance. Second half was kind of blah, and then we have the late goal with Pedro. But to me, I think Udinese, they don't need to panic or anything like that. They didn't play well in this game, but I feel like as long as they play their game, they'll be able to get some points. But again, I think it all comes back to maybe not necessarily just down to the fact that DePaul did some over the top stuff. It was the fact that is their primarily that's the player that gives them the most creativity in the attack. And Mancini just took him out of the game, and once he was taken out, they could do nothing. So from the Udinese's point of view, they need to figure out a way, especially in bigger games, to have an alternative plan when that happens. Because the second DePaul was taken out of the game, they didn't do anything. And with obviously playing Roma, and then they play AC Milan soon, and that's going to be a challenge as well. And they can't allow their best player to be taken out of the game and then being able to provide nothing. So I think it just came down to that. Obviously, Roma played well, and I think they had it was 2-0 after 25 minutes, and scored a third that was taken away. But it was just a dominant performance. And then some Roma fans are saying we were horrible in the second half. I kind of get it, but we just took the foot off the gas. So I don't think that was totally. But again, it was a game I thought it was going to be much closer because Udinese are real tough, but we handled them pretty easily. Driving the momentum a little further, especially with the Europa League coming up. And I like to feel that Roma should be one of the favorites in that competition just because of Man United are trying in the Premier League. And then you have AC Milan who need to be knocked out as quickly as possible to realistically go for the so like in the Europa League, there's Bayer Leverkusen, and that's probably the only team I'm really that worried about. But because of the way
this kind of just died out.
I was going to say, we're just the momentum from that game just drives them into that game. And then they have Benevento after that. And we're, I think, in our last 25 games or 24 games against relegation, newly promoted teams, it's like 24 total, 24 wins, no draws, no losses. So I'm not worried about Benevento. So I think it kind of went into a certain way because you put it all into that first leg. And what I'd like to do, I'd like to be like multiple goals up in the first leg, where the second leg there's no pressure, and then you can rest all the important pieces. But I think this game for Roma was just about rebounding, getting the victory, and having that momentum and confidence back. And Dzeko's not playing that much, which I like. And it would just, I think it's proving that this team can operate without him. But it is what it is. And more so than anything else, I think it's about the whole DePaul thing.
Yeah, Francesco, what do you think, man? Do you think DePaul's because you look at Okaka, right? Okaka was staring at him, and he's like, "Man, what are you doing? I'm open. I'm this and that. You know what I mean? Pass it to me." And Okaka, I don't know about you guys, but I think Okaka's refound his form. Okay, he's playing with Udinese. He's not as the young Okaka that we knew that he's playing with Fulham or these other teams and stuff like that back in the day, right? And being loaned out 100 times. But I feel like he's kind of found his spot in Udinese, and he's kind of giving DePaul. She's like, dude, give me the chance. Give me, I need to score. And even with Del Feo too, what a signing. So I mean, was he kind of the key of their? Aside from everything else, do you think he was kind of the key of their loss, in a sense?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like DePaul has this unnecessary pressure that he puts on himself. That if he doesn't perform well, the team doesn't perform well. So a lot of chances he's had when he could have passed the ball to Okaka, he's like, okay, I'm gonna pass to Okaka, but if he misses, then it's just a wasted chance. I personally know I could do better and score if I do this and do this. And Mancini just wasn't letting DePaul have any space because every team does their homework and they know that DePaul is the core of the team. You stop DePaul, you stop the entire team. And I feel like Udinese's coach is at fault there because, like Elliot said, once DePaul is having a poor game, there's no plan B. There's no saying, okay, DePaul, listen, you're having a poor game. Mancini's not giving you any space. I want you to do this now instead of doing what you usually do. There's no plan B. There's no alternate plan. And I feel like his ego definitely got in the way. And I feel like a lot of players do this actually. I saw Tonali do this against Milan when he was still at Brescia. When they played teams that are big teams that are potential suitors for them, they want to try to impress and over impress to show that team to say, listen, get me out of this shithole. I want to come play for you guys. and like with Tonali against Milan, I remember saying this. He was horrible against Milan. It was one of the worst games I've seen Tonali play. Because he was trying to impress Milan because he wanted to play there. Obviously, Milan took the bait and now he's on Milan.
I forgot he was on the team, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I never see. Who is this kid? Like, I was going to put his face on the milk carton soon. Like, I haven't seen this kid.
I remember they were trying to say that he was better than Zaniolo. Like, when he was coming up with Brescia, it was just like, come on.
That was a disgrace. I still don't understand how he's on Milan. That was the biggest finesse I've ever seen. He should still be in Serie B, in my opinion.
It looked and when Inter had took him, or they were going to sign him, and then Milan, they were celebrating it like it was some daylight
top match or something. Holy smoke, it's crazy. It's
no, but I feel like DePaul is definitely one of those players that would try to over impress against the bigger teams, so he could try to prove his worth, and I think that's what costed Udinese the game and gave Roma the victory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, most definitely. Again, if DePaul, I mean, we said it time in and time out. Like, we know he's gonna leave, but if he's gonna start continuing in this, hard-headed form and everything, Udinese, they're gonna suffer. And Udinese is a type of team that we shouldn't roll out as quick as they have. Pereira, Delafeu, they have some good players there. It's just
good core team. Yeah.
They do. It's just unfortunately they don't.
They could even lower his price and still feel good about the situation. Because I'm thinking about this, and he was rated at 40 million. And after
that's too much.
It's not okay when he performs well against the lesser teams. Okay, who cares? But when he's performing so badly against the bigger teams, it's just that's way too much for anybody to ask for anyone. And I'm thinking about this, and DePaul's a name that I was intrigued in last season, at least during several points. And then after seeing him a couple times, even last year, even the victory that Udinese had against Roma, he was their worst player during that game. And I'm like, nah, I'm good on that. I'll look somewhere else because he seemed like something that would be interesting for a club like Roma. But now after this again, it just seems like the bigger clubs, or the quote unquote the bigger clubs that kind of reside above everyone else in Serie A. I don't understand why any of those teams would be interested. I don't think Juve should be interested. Inter will be interested because they just make
Inter's interested in everyone.
Yeah, they just make dumb deals like that sometimes. But I don't see any of these big teams really going after him. Maybe Napoli would do it, but I don't think anyone's going to pay 40 million for him.
I don't see that either.
So anyway,
I want him to leave Serie A, general. I want him to leave. I want him to go to at least Leeds. I know Leeds are after him. That would kind of make more sense because
they'll pay
he's
the
not
40
Liverpool
million.
guy.
What?
Yeah.
The
Leeds,
Premier League.
you think? Yeah. I just don't see him at Liverpool. I know Liverpool are been kind of hot in his tail, but again, as Elliot said, it's not like he's a player for
Everton might be.
He performs well. Yeah, the Toffees. Yeah, either Leeds, Everton, kind of like the top 10, the okay guys. I don't see him at a
not
Liverpool.
A top tier.
No.
Not going to be even remotely interested in that guy.
Oh no. Megamind. He's got his sights on bigger guys. No more. Yeah. He's thinking about center backs. That's what he dreams about is center backs. The next game we're gonna talk about here, which I got so much hate for this when I said about the penalty. Oh my god, Inter and Lazio. Now it's funny. Yeah, that's it. Their laugh. It's funny because once the Milan Speiza game ended, I got flooded with messages. Bro, you gotta help us out. You gotta give us the W with the Inter. Come on. Okay, first of all, F you guys. You beat us at the last minute. of the last game. So we'll make a Nutella sandwich. Leave me alone. Second, it's Inter, for crying out loud. We'll try our best, but like I can't promise you anything. And with the penalty, I think it was a penalty. As you can zoom in, you can see that his Hoyt's back heel or back foot is clipped on Martinez's back foot as well too.
Yep.
So it's a penalty. The thing
It's a
that
tough
impressed me
call
the
to make,
most,
but it was a penalty.
yeah,
He's clipped
it was a
before that
penalty. It's
happened.
tough. Yeah, exactly. I was just so impressed about how his hair stayed in position in that slide tackle.
Yeah.
The amount of hairspray this guy had to use, like again, I just it just grinds my cannolis seeing these guys looking like models than players. It's like, man, you don't need to wear that much hair products. Like we get it,
you're playing a
So
soccer game, like
yeah, like
you're
remember
not in a fashion show.
from Botta. I made a comment about from Botta. He looks like more of a GQ model, and he wanted
Yeah,
to use that
I
game
remember that. Yeah.
to get to his photo shoot. It's like, guys, come on. So
Yeah.
again, in all, Lazio played okay. I mean, Savic with the goal, but again, I knew they were going to lose. I didn't even think there's going to be a tie. I got to play Judas here a little bit. I just feel like their luck's going to run. Now, it happens with Lazio. They get this form after a loss, and they do good, do good, do good, do good. And then they just get not too cocky, but they kind of sense a loss of the
They just
game.
mentally break down.
They do, and it's too,
like
it's too much
if you're
for
really
them.
thinking about it, last year they should have won the league, but
Oh,
when
100%.
it restarted,
100%.
they just collapsed. And
Yeah,
even before they started collapsing, they were like the Fiorentina game where they almost didn't win, and then there was a bogus penalty. But I think there was a lot of penalties going on last year with Lazio. But you know what I mean? It's just like they have the team on paper; they should be doing way better, and then they started so horrible. And then they got hot, they beat Roma, and then they went on this big run. And then I think after this, they're just going to kind of trend downwards just because I mean, not to be me, that's just what they are.
Yeah. Well, I think Hoya too. I think he got lessons from Patrick on how to concede penalties or how to be rough. I think he took notes from him and decided, okay, I'll try it in this game and see if it works. So clearly that didn't work out. But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, they're just a team that unfortunately they go up, 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 and they just kind of crack under pressure, and that's unfortunately how it kind of it happens there. So, did you what do you guys think of the game too? Is there anything you guys want to kind of take from that game as well? Lukaku. Can we talk about
Lukaku's great. That's what I was going to say.
Usain Bolt.
The assist to Martinez, that was world class.
That was another talking point. The Martinez goal. I mean, he scored a tap-in essentially, and his celebration was like he scored like a bicycle kick or something. He was celebrating like the fans were there. At the end of the day, it's a tap-in. Like I understand why he was doing it. Like obviously he's been getting all this saying, including from me, saying like, oh, he doesn't perform in big games. Yeah. And like when you score that goal to like kind of like bury Lazio underground after that goal, I mean, you're gonna celebrate like that. But at the end of the day, come on, Latato, it's a tap in. You should be scoring. I mean,
I would have scored that.
I think anyone would have scored that.
our nonnas and grandmothers and parents would have scored that from like it's just crazy, right? So I mean, all in all, good game for.
It was the assist.
Yeah.
He's being closed down. I don't know who was on him, but from the defender, he's been closed down. Lukaku does not have a lot of space to make that move, and he could have shot it, but instead he did a short, like lightly touched pass to Martinez. Right underneath where it needed to, right in the right space, and just bang. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was so perfect of an assist, and Lukaku's not someone I typically think of as someone who's dishing it out like that. So I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, no, that was I was eating like a bowl of cereal was watching it. I'm like, at all cereals coming down, milk's going down, making a mess. I couldn't believe it on the speed because everyone rips on Lukaku in the sense of like, oh, he's too slow, or he doesn't know how to pass the ball, and it's like now this kind of throws
just shut them up.
Like, dude, exactly, because this guy can play. Forget about United. His time at United was kind of like, he's got this technique where he holds the defender, spins around, and shoots. This guy can literally take the ball from point A to point B. and still clobber people on his way.
Yeah,
So
but
that's
the
very good
whole
to
thing
see that.
about United is they said he was so horrible, but he still scored 20 goals that season. This is his last
Yeah.
season.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
mean,
Yes. Like, it's insane. It just boggles my mind all these United fans are saying, like, oh, he was terrible. Oh, funny. And it's like, Ashley Young. Oh, that's funny too. And then Sanchez, so-and-so. But think about all those few players from United. They go to Inter, and
Look
it's a
at
whole
look at
totally
Mason
different players.
Greenwood, who has 1 goal in like 18 games this season.
Uh,
And he was like,
so
"Oh, we don't
overhyped.
need Lukaku anymore. We got
Overhyped.
Greenwood."
Greenwood, yeah, like number 11 over here. Like, what a disgrace for Ryan Giggs. Like, oh, get out of here, man. I hate that shit. Anyways, last thing I kind of want to touch around, which again, this transfer, it was a little weird to me. Francesco, what's his name? Ziyech. I keep pronouncing it wrong there.
Ziyech,
The
I
guy from
believe.
Chelsea.
I'm not
Yeah.
100%. Yes, yeah.
So
Fernando
Milan,
Fernandes.
Juventus. Yeah, so Juventus and Milan doing a tug of war for this guy. I know over the summer, Elliot, Roma were gonna get him. I picture him more at Roma.
Last summer,
than
not this
these
last summer. The
guys.
summer before that.
Yeah.
Before
Oh,
that was in
summer
the semis.
before.
Yeah.
Oh,
We had
okay.
we had personal terms agreed. It was like a 5-year deal. I don't know how much he was going to make, but for whatever reason, someone pulled out. Whether it was the agent, whether it was the director at Ajax,
That's
whether
probably the agent.
or it
More
was
money in the
or
Premier League.
yeah, or maybe the wage wasn't, or not the wage, the fee hadn't been agreed, but he had mutually agreed to join Roma. So I actually thought he was going to. But then obviously he went. He stayed another year at Ajax. He had that great season where they went to the semifinal. Probably should have won the Champions that year. And then he goes to Chelsea for a pretty cut price. And I thought they just won the window. But then he hasn't. It's not. I don't think it's his fault. Chelsea people go to Chelsea and just don't perform. It's just like, especially with Frankie Lampard when he was there, who never should have been that manager to begin with. No, but he's a good player. I'd still like to get my hands on him.
Yeah, I mean, especially playing with Mkhitaryan on the other side of the flank too. That'd be killer. And just get that solid striker. I mean, you still got Boyle there. He's so good. I mean, Zach was a write-off, obviously, like we've all said before.
He's gone. He's gone.
He's gone. I think I don't know where he's gonna go, but I mean, maybe in the Premier League, maybe in the Championship. Hey, maybe play with Blackburn.
Maybe he goes back to Wolves for
sure.
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Bundesliga for sure. I can see him going back. Yeah, for sure.
But he's burned his bridges already. Plus, Moriel has had better stats with significantly less minutes. So it's just like, I think he's got like 9 goals and 7 assists or something like that. So I mean, and Dzeko has 7 goals and 2 assists. I mean, it's not really conversation. He shouldn't even be starting anymore. He should be coming off in the 80th minutes. Just to play.
And I feel Foden is more of like an all-round type of like striker in a sense. He can play in all fronts, right? He can play striker, left, right. I feel like he's more adaptable. As in Dzeko, he can only play. You know what I mean? Like he's got no speed.
Moriel is primarily a goal poacher, but he can play in multiple different areas. We need somebody else. I don't know who with him next season. But Dzeko's gone, and I love Dzeko, but this is it's going to be a nasty divorce just because how the whole thing went down. We tried to get rid of him in January. We couldn't do it. I just wish he would have left last year on good terms rather than because it's just a bad place. And for someone who scored as many goals as he has, and I've always enjoyed watching him at Roma. He's gone, but I'm just. It's unfortunate the way it had to end. You know what I mean? It should have ended with positive vibes about it. But anyway,
I really thought he was going to go to the Inter. I don't know about you guys. I really thought that Inter were going to make that final push. I mean, obviously for them not getting Giroud. I mean, the Giroud and the Inter and the love triangle between Giroud, Inter, and Lazio is going on. I really thought that Giroud's done now. He's going to stay at Chelsea. He's going to run on the bench or just do a couple. Nothing against him. I just feel like if he's got to play more, he's got to go somewhere else. But I feel like, Dzeko going to Inter, I mean, that could have been a great kind of attacking option just to be a fill-in for Lukaku or Martinez, obviously, right? But, I mean, obviously stuff happened there, hence why all the fights and everything. He lost his armband, and there you go. So
Yeah.
it is what it is, right? Now, Francesco, what do you think? Would you take him? Would you take this player on or no? Like the second I said this to you earlier, you like gave me a look where like, ugh, like you had disgust written all over your face, like you don't want this guy at all on your team. Francesco, can you
I
hear
think
me?
he's froze.
I think he froze.
Or else he's so offended by the question that he
You can hear me though,
I
right?
can't, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, we
Oh.
offended him.
Okay.
That's it. No,
No,
I
we
thought
must
you were
have.
so
no,
infuriated by the
my
Oh
shirt just
man,
like
you were so
froze.
mad.
My
Yeah,
shirt just like
no.
froze.
Yeah, that's. I'm gonna leave it in there. That's we're gonna
It was an
just. That's
irritated look
amazing.
though.
He was
Like, how can
irritated.
you ask me
We'll
that
go with
question?
that. Yeah,
I was so
yeah,
pissed. He's like, oh, I just froze. I'm like, what the
yeah,
hell?
yeah. It's this transfer's bad luck. It's a voodoo. But yeah. Anyways, like when we talked about earlier, we were very, and I told you like oh no, don't say nothing. Wait till for the podcast. But like, what's the reason why you want to take him on? Is there something that you don't like his playing style? He wouldn't fit in the system. I mean, what would you in that sense?
Yeah, I just don't think he fits in the play style at all. I mean, if Dybala's leaving, I feel like then okay, but I mean,
Hmm.
I just don't know what Pirlo and Pirlo, Sadi, and Allegri, both all three of the coaches. I think Dybala plays best behind the attack, behind Ronaldo, behind Morata, especially now that we have Morata who's on such good form. I think the best position for Dybala would be behind Ronaldo and Morata, and yet he's
Hmm.
still playing beside Ronaldo or beside Morata.
He shakes his head.
Which I think shouldn't. Yeah, I think it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a thing right now. But I mean, I don't see Ziyech playing beside Artur or anything. I think his best role is behind the attackers. If we don't even play Dybala there, what's Ziyech gonna do? He's gonna play left mid where Chiesa is playing. Gonna play like center mid, holding the ball up with McKennie. I don't think it's the. I just don't think it's. I think we could spend our money so much better on other players that will help our system. I don't think Ziyech will help our system at all.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think they should sign the guy from or the kid from Lyon, OR.
Yeah.
He's the. I hear this Pogba stuff, and I've said this 100 times.
Oh no,
I,
Pogba, leave
I
it
don't think
alone,
he's coming
man.
back, but I don't think it's not. I just when there are transfers that go on that aren't related to my team, I want interesting. That's not interesting. I saw it already. Okay, and it doesn't make a lot of sense from his point of view either. What's going to happen? He's going to play, 4 years at Juventus, then go back to Man United. I just don't like it. So I think Awar is the one. I know there are other teams interested in him, and I know he wanted to play for somebody else in the summer, but it never went through. But I think that's the type of thing that they should go for. If they're really going to be aggressive, and they're going to need a strong squad to overpower Pilro's inability to manage. So that's the type of player I think it would need in that situation. Ziyech is a nice player, but it works great for my situation, but I don't think it makes a lot of sense for Juventus, just personally.
Yeah.
They should be aiming higher also, because Juventus is still a massive club and all this stuff, so they should be going for somebody just a little bit more of their style. And I don't think Ziyech is somebody who they would be too interested in anyway, or they shouldn't be, because I don't think it really fits, especially with the whole Dybala thing that you just said.
Yeah, it's more it makes sense like maybe Milan, but like even the transfer in general, like yeah, the guy had just got to Stamford Bridge and he's going through an injury and this and that, and like Thomas is the new coach. Okay, like give the guy a break, and all of a sudden like Juventus, we want him, or you mean like relax, like
That's what
So
happens when you have
yeah, I agree.
Paratici.
Sorry.
That's what happens when you have Paratici. He
Yeah,
he doesn't know what
Every
he's
yeah,
time
doing
there's a
in the
player who's a
office.
little unhappy, always linked to Juventus.
always.
Always,
Oh yeah,
always,
oh
always,
yeah,
always.
oh yeah. My nana's gonna go play for Juventus soon. She's unhappy. So, anyways, but yeah, great conversation there, guys. I mean, lots of talks on the penalties and just that transfer. I had to get off my chest. That was kind of the one that kind of like was like, holy crap, like already like this guy's just played for the team and is already linked to these guys. So, this is going to conclude our first episode with our new member. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Next week, we're going to try to bring a guest on. We're just going to figure out who. So, guys, if you really like this video, like, share, comment, whatever. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and have a good one. Ciao, guys.